Before this episode begins, I'd like to say that I will be heading to DinoCon UK on the 25th and 26th of July in Birmingham. So if you see me wandering around in my podcast t-shirt, come and say hello. I have bookmarks and pin badges to give away as well. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll see you there.
But I did a short little TV to camera interview with Gareth Edwards at the press junket, and I asked him about the river sequence, obviously, as you would. So, yeah, he basically said in his answer that he had no idea when he read the script and then he shot the movie, shot the sequence, came to the editing phase. He had no idea at that point that sequence came from the book, came from the Crichton novel.
Hello and welcome back to Road to Rebirth. I'm Roland Squire. And today's episode is a spoiler-filled conversation all about Jurassic World Rebirth. So if you haven't seen the film yet, hit pause and come back after. But seriously, it's been out a couple of weeks now. Make it a priority. To help me dive into the Dino Chaos today, I've got two returning guests. Author and film critic James Mottram, and author, archivist, and keeper of the Jurassic knowledge, more than I could ever attain. It's Derrick Davis. Welcome back, both of you. Thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us back.
So I'm going to kick off with a simple question. How many times have we all seen the film? James, how about you?
Twice. So once at a press screening a few weeks before it came out, and then I think I left it a few days after it came out in the UK, and then I took a friend to see it because she wanted to see it. Yeah, also fantastic sort of addition. I got to see the Odyssey trailer, which I had no idea was being released ahead of Rebirth. So that was a real bonus, which I didn't even know about until I literally sat in the cinema. So yeah, I've only done it twice. Might do a third time just so I can see that trailer again.
And Derrick, how many times for you?
It's actually as of yesterday, it was 6 times for me, which is it's quite a bit.
Whoa.
So you're welcome, Universal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on 3. So I first saw it at the press screening, then I took my mate to see it, and then my partner, we were on a holiday, and she went, well, if there's a rainy day, maybe we can go and see it. First day of the holiday, it rained, and so we were in a cinema watching Jurassic World Rebirth. So yeah, I've seen it 3 times, and 3 different audiences as well, which was quite nice.
Yeah, it's been interesting to get the different audience reactions. Like my first time was it was like the early Monday screenings that they had in the United States. I don't know why they didn't do it elsewhere. It's not really fair to people trying to avoid spoilers for 10 days. But yeah, I went to that, and since not everyone really knew if it was going to be Rebirth, there was kind of like a little anxiety going into it that isn't normally there. Usually when you go to see a movie, you know what you're seeing. And some people were just there who didn't even know that was going to be Rebirth. They were just like random, normal, non-fans. How dare they, be there? That was kind of like my least favorite screening, though, to be honest, because again, there was like that extra anxiety to it and everything. It just didn't really work well for me. But the second time was when the actual release date, and it was a Dolby screening, and that's honestly my favorite way that I watched it, was the Dolby. Just to have the sound perfect, I think, is really vital for any movie. And that's why I went like 6 times, because I want to get the different like format experiences. Like I did 4DX one time. That's with the weather effects.
Yeah, I still haven't done one of those. The closest one is like miles out in an industrial estate somewhere, but I can see how this film might work quite well with that, the amount of times it spends on the water.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of disappointed. Like I thought they were going to use like the water spray a lot more than they did. I don't know if they're just trying to be conservative with the amount of water that they use each showing. But the motion seat's the best part. But then again, you could probably just go to D-Box and get that experience with the motion seat. But yeah, and they had like some light effects too and some wind effects. But again, I don't know if I just expected more, because I'm Mr. Theme Park guy. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel like I'm on Jurassic Park the ride or whatever.
Okay.
And then I did like the Screen X format, where they add picture on the sides.
Like the Cinerama, kind of updated Cinerama sort of thing.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do that, because I'm like, oh, it's Cinerama, it's back. Like that. People who know their film history, Cinerama used to be like in the 60s, I think, or maybe even the 50s as well, where they, had like a wider screen. And I don't know how they did it for this movie though. I don't know if they used AI extensions or they just used. Yeah, I'm not, because there is definitely more image, and they only did certain scenes, which I didn't know that. I thought it was going to be the whole movie, but it's not. It's just like key sequences, but basically from like when stuff really starts heating up on the island till the very end, then they use the whole screen for the rest of the movie. But
yeah, the one format it's missing is IMAX.
I know. I'm really disappointed by that. That's the way I usually go see it. But Dolby's a nice substitute, but it's not the same, man. It doesn't have the big screen ratio, right?
It's interesting you mention your anxiety, because I think I read your reaction to having seen it on that Monday, that first time. I think it must have been on Facebook or something. I'd read it, and you were quite, I wouldn't say down on it, but you were a little reserved, right? I mean, and we'll probably get into this in a minute, but you talked about how it doesn't expand the lore or the mythology, which is entirely accurate. There's nothing inaccurate about that statement. But I was kind of thinking, oh man, he's not that into it. Like, because I came out the first screening like really excited. And,
well, I think I spoke to you straight.
Yeah, that's right. We spoke that day by chance. It was that day that I'd seen it. So I was kind of like, oh, Derrick's not that into it. But clearly, the fact that you've been another 5 times would indicate you are that into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's grown on me quite a bit. Like, we'll get to rankings later, I'm sure. But yeah, it's still not like at the high point for me. But I definitely like it more than I did that first screening, for sure. And part of it, I guess, just so people know a little backstory of real life Derrick, I fractured my ankle like a couple weeks before the movie came out, and also the day after my book published. So that was, didn't really celebrate much. So I had a fractured ankle, so I'm still in a medical boot, they call it. It's like, it goes up to right below the knee, and it's like made of plastic and like padding and stuff like that. It's very awkward to walk around. You're kind of lopsided, kind of hobbling. And, I drove myself there. It's like a 40-minute drive to that Regal theater. Luckily it's the leg that I don't use on the gas pedal. So don't worry. Yeah, I wish I had, like some kind of like car that like a self-driving car, kind of like in my book, actually.
So were you kind of like in a lot of pain when you were watching that first screening then?
Not so much pain. I mean, because the pain luckily was mostly going away by that point, because it was like a couple weeks or so after it happened, thankfully. But no, it was still there. I mean, luckily, because I'm just sitting in the theater for 2 hours or however long it is, so I wasn't like really uncomfortable during the movie. It was just the process of getting there and then getting back afterward, because all the screenings for that Monday thing were at the same time. I think it was like 7 p.m. for us. And that means I didn't get out till like past 10 or around 10 or so. So then I'm driving at night at the same time on a freeway and everything. It was just like, it kind of hampered my mood a little bit too.
Okay.
But anyway,
I've seen, so yeah, I mean, James, what was your first kind of reaction coming out of it?
Well, first reaction was kind of elation, really. We always get asked by sort of publicists to kind of give a reaction pretty much straight away. And I actually bumped into one of the publicists on my way down the stairs from the Universal screening room. And I just kind of turned to her, and I remember going, God, that was great. Just that's just sort of a natural reaction. That wasn't any kind of, journalistic trying to, either pump things up or whatever. Yeah. It was just, I felt like really thrilled by it. And then, of course, I had to try and come up with some sort of little phrase that I thought, oh, yeah, let's see if they use this in their marketing. So I was kind of like, this is the best Jurassic in a decade. That really only puts it up against the last two, because obviously Jurassic World was 2015. So we can debate that, like you said, a bit later on in terms of ranking. But, for me, it just felt like a really fresh, kind of simple take. There's nothing too complicated about the story.
No.
But I really enjoyed the set pieces. Going back a second time, obviously I knew the beats, so I wasn't quite as thrilled. And I was kind of on the lookout more for little Easter eggs, really. Particularly one in the mini mart on the island, that little kind of, gas station mini mart, I think it is. I don't know if you guys had read about this, but it's said in the production notes that the art director, or the art team, filled the mini mart with kind of magazines like homaging to Spielberg movies like Back to the Future and Poltergeist. And I was like, right, I have to spot this. I have to spot this. And it is, I guarantee you, I was kind of like drilling my eyes into the screen. It is nigh on impossible to see any racks of magazines. There's one shot. It's a very gloomy sequence for a start. You know, it's obviously at nighttime. And you kind of see a kind of what might be a rack of magazines in the background at one point, but there's no way of telling. So I was quite disappointed not to see some kind of Spielbergian Easter egg. So
playing Dr. Pepper, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of Dr. Pepper. Obviously, Snickers is probably having a rebirth itself after this movie. But yeah, I know. But I did enjoy it the second time around. I mean, to put it up against all the other blockbusters this summer, it's easily the most fun I've had. I mean, you know, Mission Impossible was kind of a bit of a dour experience, and what else? Thunderbolts was okay, but I didn't love it. You know, I've just had the most fun in this, and obviously I'm somewhat biased, as in the way you guys clearly are as well. But you know, equally, you're going to be harsh critics if it doesn't work for you. And I just thought it worked on you know, as a kind of an action adventure story. It worked really, really well, and that's what I like most about it.
And it was nice seeing it at the press screening. Everybody had to put their phones in a little plastic bag and seal it and put it under there. So no phone screens, no trailers, just straight into the film. So that was an amazing way to watch it for the first time. So that probably helped. And the free bar at the start was very nice. But I recorded an episode where I had like 7 questions about the film before I went in. And for me, it's all about hitting that experience of sitting down and watching a Jurassic, or see if I can get back to that first Jurassic film. And I think when we got to the moment where the plane is flying to pick up Duncan, and you have the burst of the John Williams music, and I was like, you've sold me. You've got me. You've got me in the moment that you understand how I, as a fan, love that bit of music and love those elements of this franchise or series. And because in the Jurassic World films, those music beats weren't given that sort of prominence. They were hidden under dialogue, I remember, in Jurassic World, and that made me, I was just like, they're playing probably my favorite bit of music from the score, and it's under somebody talking about skincare, and I'm like, I don't want this. I want to be hearing this music.
But you can kind of understand where Michael Giacchino would have been coming from as the first composer. Well, actually, technically, he's the second composer, because obviously there was someone different on Jurassic Park
Don
3,
Davis,
Don Davis. But, you know, the first one to sort of take command of the new franchise. And he obviously doesn't want to just repeat the John Williams score. And it's difficult when you're up against probably one of the great scores of all time. So you can understand him trying to kind of play it down. And obviously that would be Collins' decision as well, of course. But yeah, you're right. This time, I mean, the bit that got me, I will willingly say, first time around, the Titanosaurus in the field sequence, where it really strikes up the Williams score. And I genuinely had a emotive lump in the throat moment. I didn't quite cry, but I wasn't far off it, and I was like, I was moist in the eye.
Most
in the eye
during that bit, and it was how the film stopped. And at several points during the film, the sort of diegetic noise just died away, or you got an internal sense of, so in the moment just before he touches the leg, Henry Loomis, he all the sound goes apart from his breathing, and you just get his like ragged breathing of his excitement just before he touches it. And then of course the second he touches it, the Jurassic music comes in, and you're like, okay, I know what you're doing to me, and it's working. You know, I think that's
manipulated
me,
damn it.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I knew it worked, and I loved it for the fact that it knew what it was doing, and it worked on that level for me, definitely, when I came out.
See, this was another case where I wish I had a better first screening, because the sound was also not very good in the theater that I saw it in, which again, if my original intent was to see a Dolby the first time, which is like, if this ever happened again, if I could go back in time, I would just not have done it. I would have just waited till release date and seen it on the Dolby. But I've done like press screenings before those, like I did it for Fallen Kingdom. And that was a fun experience, like you guys said, with, you know, phones taken away, I got the bar, and no trailers. So, I mean, like, so I definitely understand. And that was like it gave me like a more positive feeling for that movie too, which I still have, even though it's goofy. but yeah, no, I mean, with Rebirth, a lot did work for me. Like, I guess I'll start with this: the T-Rex in the lagoon and the river sequence. Like, I was super hyped for that. I was covering it on my channel. I was analyzing
we
the
spoke about
trailers.
it on the episode. That we kind of went through all the iterations of the script and how it slowly got smaller and smaller until it completely disappeared from that first Jurassic.
Just so sad. But I mean, we understand why, because I think, like we probably talked about, it was, just to help with the budget and everything, and just the mechanics of making it work back then. It was hard enough for them to do what they did. So to do like in the water on top of it would have been, too much, most likely. But I was actually really happy with that sequence. Even on the first watch, I was like, this is, pretty much what I was hoping, and from what I saw, and then it adapted the sequence from the novel and even from the ideas they had for the first movie really well. And they even improved upon it in some ways. Like, there's no annoying Lex type character, going na 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 na, or doing any, coughing or anything silly like that. So I think they actually improved upon it in several ways. My only wish was that it went on longer. Like, in the book and stuff, they keep going back to them on the river. The T-Rex keeps pursuing them, but I understand why they didn't, because it's already a long movie. But
so, quite an interesting point, which I don't think it happened, Roland, when we spoke previously. But I did a short little TV to camera interview with Gareth Edwards at the press junket, and I asked him about the river sequence, obviously, as you would. And it turns out, and this is slightly blowing my own trumpet, but actually, Derrick, this is kind of blowing your trumpet too. So, he basically said in his answer that he had no idea when he read the script, and then he shot the movie, shot the sequence, came to the editing phase. He had no idea at that point that sequence came from the book, came from the Crichton novel.
Really?
So basically, the story goes, this is how he related to me, that him and his editor were working, in London all hours, trying to cut the film. Obviously, they were on this crazy, insane schedule, as they have been on this entire movie. So he said at one point they had about half an hour off because they were waiting for delivery of something or other. And they decided to go to a comic store in London just to get some fresh air. And the editor bought a copy of, and he said, my book. So I'm assuming he's talking about the script book here rather than the Ultimate Visual History book, because the script book has got a ton of stuff in it about, the storyboards from the junked river art sequence. And the editor, took the book back to the office. They was just flicking through it. And then he went, oh my God, there was a river raft sequence originally intended for Jurassic Park. And they had no idea. And he basically said, well, thank God I didn't know, because otherwise I'd probably have been terrified to shoot a sequence that Spielberg had at least one point contemplated in shooting. So there you go.
That's crazy.
It's amazing that was never relayed to him previously.
Well, I find that strange, but that's how he told it to me. I mean, I'm sure someone must have told him at some point, but maybe he forgot. I don't know.
Kep or someone. Yeah.
But if it's just a sequence in the script, why would you necessarily? He said he read the book when he was 17, but obviously that's a long time ago now. Had never gone back to the book, so I guess he just forgot that sequence.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, a clear standout for me. I was, as a Jurassic fan, knowing that was going to be in it, and it was just the best reaction in all three screenings has been the moment where she inflates the raft and then she pushes it over and the Rex is gone. And it is an amazing cinema conceit that T-Rex disappears. But the audience reaction was an intake of breath on all three screenings, and it was brilliant.
I didn't really buy that, because I had to say, when I watched it again, and then it's like, hang on, where is that massive dinosaur just disappeared to? That's kind of like the bit in Jurassic Park where the T-Rex comes into the rotunda at the end. You sort of don't question how on earth it's got into this rotunda, which of course was a Spielberg idea. You just go with it, and I guess you just
top
go
of the
with
frame.
Yeah, top of the frame, exactly. But you just kind of go with this, and it works. It works completely. I mean, I think my favorite image that I took away from this entire film was the teeth bearing into the yellow. The world's toughest inflatable, by the way, not being burst by a T-Rex's teeth, but just that image of the teeth almost coming through the yellow inflatable material was incredible. I mean, I thought, what a brilliant, whoever conceived of that, whether that was Gareth or whether that was in the script, I don't know, but it just looked amazing on screen. That was just like, that sums up a Jurassic movie to me, that horrifying moment.
Yeah. And I just wanted that self-contained action set piece, which I feel like the last two films, like a dinosaur-led action set piece, which I think the last two films have been not leaning into as much. And so it was nice having that full moment with that Rex, and it feels like an animal where it wakes up, and then you see it having a little drink, and the Ray Harryhausen like moment where the Ketz flies past and it looks up at it, and it almost like accidentally sees the in the raft and slowly turns its head, and it doesn't need to run.
It's like, what's this?
God, this is so horrific. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and that is crazy though. They didn't know that it was in the book, because I mean, it even kind of fits some of those original storyboards that are in the script book, you know, like especially the dock part of the sequence. So I don't know if because I don't think we've seen storyboards from Rebirth from that particular moment. Someone recently who worked on the film posted storyboards of after that scene, when they're actually in the river on the raft and everything, but not of the lagoon part. So I'm wondering, like, if they saw those in the script book and maybe just like emulated it kind of thing, or if they just straight up used them. I mean, who knows? Yeah. But it looked really like so spot on. Although I like the shed though. They made the shed kind of interesting and different instead of just like a cubicle kind of thing, and kind of made it more interesting. And I do love on the raft because they really tried to make it be like, you know, these characters aren't doing something, you know, stupid. It's like, oh, why is she inflating it on the dock? It's because the raft specifically says do not inflate it in the water, or you know, the cube will sink into the water kind of thing. So it's like
And definitely shout out to Matthew Clark, the lead graphic designer who I spoke to previously, and his detailed look at everything that went into this film. And we mentioned a little bit about the gas station scene and all the Easter eggs. Well, he shared an image of the thing that the Mutodon knocks down from with the Rex. It's like a red Rex. It wobbles its head and it makes a noise. That is based upon the Kenner T-Rex toy from the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And he personally bent the tail of the unit because that was the first bit of the toy to break. If anybody out there remembers those.
There's always been in the box too. Yeah.
Do you feel like that sequence where the young girl gets in one of the fridges, refrigerators of that mini mart, if I'm remembering this correctly now, is that basically a nod to the kitchen sequence in Jurassic Park? I mean, with the girl hiding in the hiding in the metal box, whatever it is, where you unit.
I quite like the idea that the Mutodon at that moment sees itself for the first time. It's like it suddenly realized, kind of trying to work out what it is. It's like taking a second look at itself.
Damn, I look good.
Yeah. So, James, as you've studied these previous 6 movies, I'm curious to see where you think Rebirth sits in the legacy of those 6 films.
In the sense of, where do I think it's? Is it number 2, number 3, that kind of thing, or
does it feel more like a Jurassic Park film, or does it lean into more of Colin Trevorrow's eras?
That's a very good question. Well, from having spoken to David Koepp about it, he very much was leaning back towards Jurassic Park, which obviously he adapted. I feel like there's quite a lot of The Lost World in here as well. I mean, obviously we know of The Lost World having a second island and so on and so forth, and that feels like they're returning to this idea. I think we said this before, maybe when we spoke, but I do wonder how many of these islands Hammond had, to do his R&D. But yeah, I definitely feel like it's much more of a. I mean, obviously, the very beginning when they're in New York, it feels like a little nod to sort of the Dominion universe with the the dinosaurs now out into the world, but really it doesn't feel that similar to Colin's movies. I think it's definitely much more back to the Spielberg Koepp, in tone, I'd say, more than anything. With the kind of humor. I wasn't really struck on the boyfriend character and his kind of he annoyed me less second time around. Funnily enough, the first time around, he really annoyed me. But he does have some good scenes, especially when he goes for a leak and you've got the creatures right behind him. That was a great sequence, it has to be said. But I found him a slightly annoying character. But then, Martin Krebs, the Rupert Friend character, he's got to be like a miniature.
Like Dodgson.
Dodgson
from the book, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Well, also, particularly if you look in the book, where I believe he kind of throws someone overboard.
Yeah, he kicks Sarah Harding off the boat on the way to the island, yeah.
And here, obviously, he doesn't kick her off, but he doesn't rescue the girl either. So, yeah, that's what I mean. And definitely when I spoke to Ket, he said, not only, of course, did he cherry pick the river raft sequence, but he did pick some stuff out of the Lost World as well. He didn't specifically mention that, but you can kind of see that. He also said there was quite a lot of science stuff from Malcolm's kind of speeches and things that he kind of not necessarily lifted, but he's borrowing that stuff that really the Loomis character is. There's quite a lot of Malcolm in Loomis, I'd say, on some level. Although ironically, yes, the one reference to Alan Grant we get is that Loomis studied under him. But so I do feel like it's really harking back to those earlier films, and I think that's a good thing as well, because frankly, we know that they're the best of the series.
Yeah, when Loomis says that the world would shake us off like a summer cold, that's lifted, I think, pretty much directly from the Lost World book, from Malcolm, like you said. So I was pretty happy to see that, because that was definitely some good dialogue from the Lost World, because I don't think Lost World's ever really been quoted from much, except from the Lost World movie itself, obviously.
Yeah, there's some bits in Fallen Kingdom and Dominion with, again, Malcolm's two appearances, him giving the lecture. A lot of that's lifted from the start of the Lost World, and I think Fallen Kingdom, when he's given in the Senate, I think that's again from the same lecture that he gives at the start of the book. But yeah, I was just loved the kind of character beats that Ket brought from the Lost World. Yeah, when he doesn't help the girl back onto the boat, I just scribbled in my notebook, Krebs is Dodgson, like exclamation mark.
Like the real Dodgson.
Yeah. And the fact that it again slows down, we lose any sort of music, and you just get that contorted expression on Rupert Friend's face as he's trying to work out what to do.
It kind of went towards the end with obviously the sequence with Mahershala Ali and his flare. Kind of went a little bit Apocalypse Now for me, basically, more in a visual point of view than any narrative point. But I actually interviewed the cinematographer John Matheson, who told me that they basically weren't exactly sure as they were filming it what to do with Mahershala's character, i.e. would he survive or not. And I kind of think you can sort of see that, because I've seen a lot of people say, the ending, it came a little too abruptly, and I didn't really feel that when I watched it a second time around. But I can sort of see, Mahershala kind of returning, having survived. It was a slightly clunky moment in the story. It was kind of like, oh, right, so he did survive, even though the flare, went out, and then he's got another flare. And, that didn't quite work for me as an ending. Frankly, I would have, not that I disliked him as a character, and I certainly thought his performance was great, but it would have been an amazing sacrifice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If he,
I do get, because I've heard that Gareth said that, so I think it was scripted with two endings of so from concept, Ket didn't know what to do, or he gave the option essentially for Mahershala to survive. And I think Duncan, the character, before he was cast as Mahershala, and I wonder whether having Mahershala Ali in the film swayed the fact that we can't have this actor for one film. If we want to bring him back, we can't.
Well, that's it. He will obviously be a great character to bring back. Yeah. So that's probably what they were thinking about, more than, is it a good ending? Is it not a good ending? But yeah, of course,
I quite like the idea that I've heard people say about the fact that he, all the way through the film, it's leading us up to the fact that he is going to sacrifice himself. Even before it's going to happen, he stays on the boat when it crashes. He's kind of confrontational with the father in the sense that he's taken his children into peril. Why isn't he looking after his children? We learn that he's lost his child. And so and all the things of him saying, I'm not going to die in the jungle, I think is one of his lines. And so all the way through, you just think he's going to die at the end of this. And so I quite like the fact that the sacrifice is sort of robbed from him, that it's the kind of heroic nature of Zora and Duncan. They're very much broken characters in this through the work that they do and the lives that they lead. They can't lead a normal life, and so Zora's arc is to forget about the money and forget about herself, but to think more widely. And Duncan is he needs to let go that anger and that grief of losing his son, and so it's nice the fact that he can do that and live. I think that's kind of what I took from.
And let's face it, his other boat mates all get chomped fairly quickly, so it would kind of not be that great if all four of them went down, basically.
Yeah. I think in terms of the cast, it's a stacked cast, of big talent. Jonathan Bailey, Scarlett Johansson, and Mahershala Ali. Did they bring the star power and kind of energy that you expected going in?
I mean, honestly, I felt like they kind of were allowed to disappear into their characters a bit, where I didn't feel like I was seeing Black Widow on the island kind of thing, or, Fiero on the island, from Wicked or anything like that. So, I mean, they're good enough actors where I felt like they didn't let that kind of, I guess you would call it ego, even though I don't think they're egocentric actors, but like sometimes those kind of actors are or they play themselves like The Rock or something. But I think in this case, they were able to just be their own unique characters, and they just use their good acting. I will say though, and I don't know if this is how you guys feel about it, I feel like the first 20 minutes of the movie after the prologue bit are really glacial in pacing to me. And I know that they're setting up new characters and the new direction of the story, but I don't know. The first time I watched it especially, I was like, oh no. I felt like it was just going a little too slow up until the moment when the yacht gets attacked by the mosasaur, the family's yacht gets attacked by the mosasaur. Then I felt like, okay. And there was more moments that worked for me after that. But I don't know. I feel like the little conversation with Scarlett Johansson's character and Mahershala Ali, even that, I felt like there was too many long pauses. There was just something got missed in the editing. I felt like I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
No, I have
that's
to
just
say,
how I felt.
I didn't really think that, because I actually quite liked the beats that they allowed to. It's an action adventure movie. You're never going to have reams and reams of character development and dialogue, but. And, looking at it bluntly, the stuff about Zora having lost her partner on her last mission, and what you just said, Roland, about Duncan's kind of lost child and everything, it's fairly signposted kind of emotional beats here.
Yeah.
It's not particularly subtle work from Ket, but I thought there were moments that at least allowed the characters to breathe. Again, with the family on the yacht, the fact that this boyfriend has tagged along and he's kind of annoying, and the father's obviously trying to impress his daughter, I suppose, on his teenage daughter, or at least placate her on some level. I thought there was kind of enough character development there. I didn't find it too slow. I was kind of as you said, they've got to set these guys up. We don't know who any of these people are. And so I didn't find it, and just to go back to what you were saying about star power, I thought Scarlett was terrific in this movie. I've always, I kind of like the Marvel movies, so she's always been very good at Black Widow, at playing Black Widow, but I just thought she was perfect for this. She brought a little bit of that action heroine, vibe, but I felt that she was quite a real character. It's kind of world weary. Mercenary as she gets called at one point. I really just thought she was, she handled the action really, really well. She just had a sort of certain cynical vibe about her. Bailey was great in that, well, kind of half Malcolm, half Alan Grant role, whichever way you want to look at it. But and Mahershala was very good as Duncan. But yeah, I really thought she led the line. And I suppose it's the fact that we all know she's a massive Jurassic fan. I think that probably put me on side with her as well. It's like, this is someone who really wants to be here. It's not a paycheck job here. Obviously, she's, and I thought that really shone through. I thought she just really loved being on that set. And apparently, from what people have said, she was like, as they say, number one on the call sheet. They were in horrific conditions in Thailand, in the jungles, leeches and snakes and God knows what else they were dealing with. And she was apparently a real trooper. So, which again, none of that is to do with what you see on screen, but I think it just shines through that she was a proper leader, like offset and well, I suppose on set, off camera, and then actually on screen as well. I think that really shows through that she's, there's that bit when they land after the boat crashes on the island, and she's not playing the hero here. She's like, right, let's get in, let's get out, let's not screw around, basically. Yeah. And I don't know, I really believed her as this kind of,
like taking control.
Mercenary. Yeah, exactly, taking control.
Yeah.
She's almost like manic, like in certain places. Like you feel like she's in such this difficult situation, but it feels like that's where she really thrives. It's the other parts of her life where she doesn't. Like she loves throwing herself off the cliff just when they're going to get the Quetzalcoatlus DNA and stuff. She's just, it's right. It's just like being.
She goes like, "This is fun," as she's abseiling down the enormous rock that Bailey's having trouble with.
Yeah, and I think they all feel like they've got good chemistry with each other. Like it feels like a natural relationship that they all have on camera. They all feel quite connected, which is really nice to see. I think part of my issue with the last three Jurassic World films was sometimes how the characters talked and acted to each other was always to try and drive that plot forward or to give the audience some information rather than actually sitting down and you thinking that you were watching two people having a chat who knew each other, who really cared about each other. And they are big signposty moments in the film. But with Dominion and Fallen Kingdom, I think Claire and Owen's relationship, which should have been the strongest throughout those three films, sort of dissolves as the films go on. You don't see a sense that they are, because those films are so massive, it doesn't allow itself the time to actually get us invested in their relationship because they're off on another dino adventure in about 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, so the first film, the Trevorrow film really did that. The first Trevorrow film really, I thought, did that very well. It had that sort of screwball romantic comedy vibe.
Exactly.
And you're right, it can't...
Romancing the Stone.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of gets lost, you're right, in Fallen Kingdom and Dominion particularly.
Did you think, so the design of the film and maybe Gareth Edwards' vision for Jurassic, because and David Koepp as well, they have been touted amongst fans, and in the lead up to this, David Koepp being not wheeled out, but brought
oh my God,
out.
What happened?
He strode out to talk to. It's interesting having a scriptwriter so front and center in all the marketing for a film, and I think they knew that fans and people, this is a return to form, and then getting somebody like Gareth with his visual style felt perfect, really. Do you think they delivered in what you expected from them?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I couldn't literally, if you'd said, right, here's every A-list director working in Hollywood today, who would be the best choice? And given he did Godzilla, then he did a Star Wars movie, then obviously he had his own, very imaginative sci-fi with the creator. To me, it just felt like he'd been building up to making a Jurassic film. It couldn't have been better. And he can, well, Koepp said something to me which is spot on. He just said Gareth can handle scale. And he can. I mean, those last three films are huge and he's not daunted by scale. And yeah, I couldn't think of it. When I heard it was Edwards meets Koepp, I was like, well, that couldn't be better, really. Mm-hmm. Someone suggested the other day to me that they'd love to see, like, going forward. This is not going to happen, obviously, but going forward, who would be amazing to do it next? And they said, well, what about James Cameron? Given that he had originally bid for to do the original movie and got picked to the post by Spielberg. Now, obviously, Cameron doing an R-rated Jurassic, I think we'd all be in line for that one. But outside of him, I can't think of anyone that's better than Edwards. And yeah, I think he does deliver. I don't think it's just a generic dinosaur movie. I think there is plenty of his. I mean, he's just so good with set pieces. I mean, while I mentioned the Titanosaur sequence where we all had our, a lump in the throat, in the Mosasaur sequence at the, in the first third of the movie, I literally was watching it and my heart was pounding at points on that first viewing because it was that exciting. And I'd seen, we'd all seen the trailers and there are bits and pieces in the trailers, and I'd seen a couple of other little sequences as well. But yeah, that when it's all put together and it's just, barreling past you on the screen, yeah, my heart was kind of leaping out my chest. And I thought, well, given that and the lump in the throat moment, just taking those two sequences alone, let alone the T-Rex river raft, that's three incredible sequences that have their own distinct flavor. And he nailed each one of them, really. I mean, the cave aerial sequence, I could have, it's not quite as exciting. And then we just talked a little bit about the finale, which, I had my issues with the D-Rex, which maybe we can come on to in a minute. But generally speaking, though, just for those three sequences alone, he absolutely nailed, well, him and the editor, of course, and everyone else involved, absolutely nailed those sequences.
Yeah, I love the water sequence and the fact that it's a sort of new environment for a Jurassic film. I imagine from conception, they knew that this was coming out in the summer of the 50th anniversary of Jaws. And so it is just baked into the script and all of the visuals. Particularly there's a moment where the sun is rising, it's dawn, and we get the boat going across the sun rising, and just think it could be the orca going across this water at the moment. And
even some of the dialogue, like it's my boat or whatever. I forget the exact exchange. Yeah. But
it's my charter, and he says, well, it's my boat. Yeah. And he's like leaning against the deck, and he's having his morning coffee as the sun rises, and it's allowing those really strong visuals and he knows. I think Gareth also knows how to let a location work. So the fact that this film was filmed a lot on location, I think, enhances this so much because it feels so real. It's hot, it's sweaty, and the fact that you think at any corner you could just stumble across a dinosaur. And I like the fact that when Xavier knocks down a load of trees, really noisily, and you don't even see the dinosaur that he disturbs, but it's absolutely massive, and it, leaves. And you just think, yeah, it feels, I can honestly believe there being dinosaurs in this place.
And even the small little amphibious looking creatures that you see in the background almost felt like a Star Wars movie where you're trying to see what's in the background all the time. That little Easter eggs almost could be there just to kind of enhance the world a bit. But I mean, I still, like you guys were saying earlier, I do love that they do take the time to have some quiet moments. Because like I said, I do like having characters expanded upon, kind of like when Mahershala Ali, after he crashes, after the big Mosasaur sequence, there's that little moment where he pulls out the picture of his son, from the dashboard or whatever. And he's like, we made it kind of thing. And I'm like, just little moments like that, I think do add up, which is great. Or even the scene right after the yacht gets attacked by the Mosasaur, it's at night. And we have ScarJo sitting, at the edge of the boat, and she just has tears in her eyes. And then, Bailey comes out and, talks to her, and we get a little bit more about her. In a way, I kind of feel like that's where more of that story should have come out, but that's just me. But either way, that was still just a really great little moment that I think really adds to, her character. And it does get well paced, again, in my mind, after, when all that's going on.
I guess on some level, if these three actors return for the sequel, which one would assume they would, you'll learn more about their backstories, perhaps, in a subsequent adventure as well. So then, again, I guess we'll come on to this, but where on earth this franchise is going after this episode, I cannot tell. But hopefully they will expand a little bit, and they will become huge parts of the Jurassic mythology, just in the way Owen and Claire were, and obviously, the OG characters were as well. So Yeah, I think, it's an incredibly promising start. I thought it'll need a very, very clever writer, to
Yeah.
give us something fresh to sort of continue on this rebirth. But it is a very promising start, definitely.
Yeah, and so if we talk about the new thing of this film, which sort of new, I suppose, we've had hybrids, but we've never had mutants. And we have the D-Rex and we have the Mutadons. Did they work in adding anything new to the series for both of you?
Well, not really, honestly. And I only say that because I love their designs. I think their design great. They look really freakish and weird and interesting. So it's not really about that. It's just, they're kind of not even really part of the movie except for the beginning and the end. And that's what I think is kind of odd. It's like, why would we set this up as like a major thing when it's really not even, throughout the movie? And they even talk about it on the beach, like, oh, all the dinosaurs here are freakish things that are left behind. It's like, well, no, not really, just those two. Like everything else is kind of just normal-ish dinosaurs. Yeah, there's scary ones, but they're not like freakish mutants. So I think they kind of set up like expecting more of that than what we actually got. So in that way, it was a little disappointing. And like, we don't even know that the D-Rex is called the Distortus Rex. We never see it labeled that way or hear the name. It's just D-Rex the whole time. Yeah, with the Mutadons, we see their name on the embryonic chamber or whatever. But I don't know. And that's the thing that leads into why I won't go too far, but that's why for me, the movie lacks lore. Because it's like, what was this mutant? Like, what were they trying to do with it? What's the purpose of it? We never learn anything. And that's just kind of disappointing. And even though I did warm up to the movie quite a bit, that things like that still remain disappointments to me because they're just not in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add anything to that. I agree 100%. Particularly this thing of having them at the beginning, which again, that sequence at the beginning is obviously a nod to the original Jurassic Park with the worker kind of pulled into the raptor cage. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We can, whatever we think about the Snickers wrapper, I'm sorry, but absolutely no scientist would just discard a wrapper in a sort of highly contained, controlled environment. But anyway, we can overlook that.
But yeah, your hiring process.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah. But you're quite right. I mean, the fact that you get them at the beginning and then nothing really in the middle of the film, and then they just sort of pop back at the end, that didn't really do it for me. And you're right. It could have worked better if we'd had perhaps more at the beginning, some kind of white coat lab assistant explaining more about these characters. Because I'm assuming, by the way, is it supposed to be 17 years before? So it's obviously ahead of the new park that gets open in Jurassic World, not obviously ahead of the original Hammond Park, if that makes sense.
That's what's confusing though, because there's two conflicting bits of dialogue in the movie. So like early on, I think it's in the New York stuff, Krebs says, oh, it was R&D for the original park. He says original park. But then on the beach scene on the island, he talks about, oh, the theme park makers were wanting to appease to their audience. And so they made these mutant things. Like, okay, well, that's clearly addressing like the world era stuff. So I'm like, it can't be both, or is it both? It's a little
I think it has to be R&D for the park that ultimately opened, not because otherwise we'd be talking 30 plus years ago, whatever it is. So I think when you say original park, he presumably really meant the original park that actually opened, rather than the park that went wrong, that never opened. But yeah, it's a little confusing. But yeah, we could have done with a sort of, a scientist type character to give us a little more about the Mutadons, etc. Maybe we'll get that more in the second one. Who knows? Maybe that's where the series will go, with those creatures somehow escaping, or we'll see.
They don't really give them, because at the moment that the Distortus arrives at the end, Krebs, who is the only person who might know what it is, has already escaped and he's on his way to the dock. So he's the only character that could conceivably say, this is whatever it is, this is what it is. And it's, because he knows that there was a accident, because he mentions it or alludes to it on the boat. But so they kind of paint themselves in a corner that they can't explain it because they got nobody realistically that at that point for our characters and the eyes of us as an audience to actually just give across those basic bits of information.
That's what makes me not know where they're gonna go with this, because I mean, I feel like in a way it's almost written in a corner, because now they've basically killed off all the dinosaurs except for the ones in, the equatorial regions, specifically on this island for the most part. And so okay, so we're isolated dinosaurs again. We're just getting away from the island with dinosaurs again. And the only real plot thread that I can see forward involves like the cure that they have obtained. And because I know Krev said in the beginning of the movie that there's other competitors apparently, and that, the owner of the company really, wants it, like really quick and everything.
Mr.
And
Parker,
I think it was Miss Parker, actually.
Was it Miss Parker?
Yeah. So, I mean, but the thing is, but then is it really about the dinosaurs anymore? That's the thing that's weird. And it's like, I mean, I kind of don't mind that. I mean, I was one of the few people that didn't hate the locust stuff from Dominion.
I like the locust stuff. I didn't mind the locust stuff, I have to say, on record there. I thought that was kind of cool. I kind of think maybe now they'll just go for like some sort of ER medical drama with dinosaurs in the background as they race to find this cure for heart disease. But yeah, I think you're right. It could turn into some kind of corporate espionage tale where there are, as you say, battling companies, but that's about all I can think of, really.
But would people want that though? Like the audience is what I'm like concerned about, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but I feel like, the audience that they're trying to appeal to, I don't think that.
Yeah, you've still got to have those action sequences, and you've still got to have. I think currently, and I heard this on another podcast or somebody talked about this, but the fact of Jurassic, even though the marketing gave you pretty much the whole film before film came out in the adverts, it hasn't hurt the box office at all for it, because I think the only way to see a Jurassic Park film is in the cinema. That is literally the only way that you can see this properly. And I think it's the experience of sitting in a cinema and seeing a dinosaur at that size. And so it's almost plot is lower down to experience for the audience. I think as a sort of like generalization of people going to see the film that aren't massive super fans, it's that adrenaline rush. And it's similar to like Top Gun Maverick. I can't think of the plot for Top Gun Maverick, but I remember watching it and having an amazing time, because you can't tell people what it feels like to sit down and say, oh, Tom Cruise did this amazing stunt. He did all these, like, you can't give that to somebody unless you see it yourself.
And the problem is, do we go back to another island story, which is clearly where the best of those movies have worked? No question. I mean, even, we all probably have different opinions on The Lost World and the San Diego sequence. I kind of enjoyed it, but, there's something different when they put the dinosaurs on the mainland, whether it's San Diego or elsewhere. It doesn't work quite as well. And I can't really put my finger on why. It's just something to do with that jungle-like terrain of an island. It's a kind of, well, you're isolated on an island. You can't really escape unless you obviously find a boat or something, or a helicopter. And helicopters, obviously, as we know, get swatted out of the sky. So, I don't know. It will be interesting if they do continue with this medical story, whether we go back to the mainland now, presumably the States, or maybe go somewhere completely crazy that they haven't been in before, like, I don't know, Asia or something, and totally different kind of landscape. But obviously, like you said, they put back themselves into a corner about the fact that the creatures are now mainly in this equatorial region. Difficult. I mean, they could probably ride a way out of that one. I mean, climate change or something, you know. Yeah, maybe a different landscape might help, but I don't know. There's something about doing it on the mainland that doesn't work quite as well, or at least it didn't work. I mean, in a way, Dominion, it wasn't an island. It was the valley, effectively, where Dodgson's, biosyn compound was, but it's kind of like an island, isn't it?
Yeah. They made it feel like one.
There's nowhere to escape. And Fallen Kingdom, it was kind of like an island in the sense that it was this contained space of the house.
Yeah.
So you need some form of a contained space to make it work.
I'm just worried now that they're kind of going in circles. You know what I mean? That's I mean,
Yeah,
and I
they
get
are.
it. Like, yeah, and that's because I know we're if they do another movie, it'll be the 8th movie, so obviously that's gonna happen. But then I don't know, the lore enthusiast in me is screaming like, oh, what do I make of all this anymore? How many islands are there? Like you said, James. Like,
Well, look at what they did
have.
with Star Wars, whereas I thought they did a pretty damn good job for number 7, i.e. The Force Awakens, but clearly did not have a proper plan as to how to carry on that story beyond 7. And they really screwed it up, basically. Now, of course, they've kind of revived it by using TV, shows and so forth on Disney Plus, but they really need to think carefully. I think the one thing is here, you've got Spielberg and still very much interested in carrying on this story. Now, whether they are going to be writers on
Marshall
it, let's say, and Frank Marshall too, and Pat Crowley. So, yeah, I think the guardians of this franchise are the people you want to be in charge, but they've still got to come up with good ideas. And who knows? Maybe who knows what they'll do? We'll see.
I was just going to say my amusing idea from the Outpost podcast that I said before was, okay, so the beginning of the sequel is they're in the boat, and then the mosasaur comes out of the water, makes them go back to the island. So we're just immediately back on the island.
Like a tractor beam, it pulls them back in.
Yeah, like a tractor beam. I like the idea. This is not mine. This is Caleb. Using the kind of disused script from Jurassic Park 3 and the idea of Loomis being so, in my mind, from what Caleb said, is you have Loomis going back to the island covertly without any assistance, a bit like Levine does at the start of the Lost World novel, to research. He just wants to be, he's traumatized by the event and needs more from it. And then on the mainland, you may have Zora and Duncan needing to lead that operation to try and keep the samples away from Parkogenics, but also the draw of trying to get Loomis off. And who knows, whatever he might discover on that island, and maybe that the samples, I think in the Outpost, that maybe they're not safe. There's something that's on this island that is not good. And I still think about the DX virus from the Lost World novel and the fact that could get out. And so I if you're going back to the books, there are a few things like that can still, or unused script ideas that can still come out to play maybe in the future.
Are you saying you don't want the John Sayles script that was never made brought in as number 8? I mean, it's got some crazy shit in it.
Some people do want that.
I know. Yeah. Some days I'd take that. It's a shame that Roger Corman's no longer around, because I think that would have been right up his street.
The mutant human dinosaur hybrids, yeah. Or some people have also joked and said, "Oh, Dolores is actually carrying the DX virus. Little do they know, and she's gonna infect everybody now that she's off the island."
I haven't really looked into this, but I'd forgotten that there's a character in Dominion called Delgado, I think, as well. It's quite a brief mention. I think he's like a politician or a commissioner or something. I may be getting that wrong.
Oh, Fallen Kingdom, yeah.
Is it Fallen Kingdom? Sorry. Are they supposed to be related, or is this just something to wind fans up?
Probably the latter.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably don't even think that anybody will make those connections, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, if they didn't know the river raft sequence was in the first book, then...
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder whether they're going to bring back any legacy characters again, or whether we're just sticking with these 3. I feel like it's inevitable at some point that Ian Malcolm is going to turn up again. There's a relationship between Scarlett Johansson and Jeff Goldblum and Jonathan Bailey as well, because they're all in, as he's in Wicked. So I just feel like it's inevitable at this point that Malcolm will crop up at some point.
It kind of is, but that didn't really work brilliantly in Dominion. I mean, it was nice to see them interact a little bit, but I don't know, it didn't quite do it for me, and perhaps the way we'd all hoped. That's the problem with bringing legacy characters back. You have so many expectations. I guess a little cameo like he had in Fallen Kingdom would be fine.
Yeah,
but I don't know, integrating into the whole story, I'm not sure. Oh well, we'll see. What about Jurassic World, as in from the previous trilogy? Any of those characters, like Justice Smith's character, for example? Or
I want Lowry back from the first Jurassic World.
You need some tech guy, don't you? Because that seems to be the second film always has some sort of guy with more knowledge about tech or something about the island. So that's always a new character, seemingly comes into the second of all of the films. Almost a bit like Eddie Carr in The Lost World and Justice Smith in Fallen Kingdom. There's always those characters that suddenly crop up who don't like the environment that they're in at all.
Well, that's why I think Lowry was supposed to come back. I think for Fallen Kingdom, he was supposed to be the character that goes with Claire to the now I'm forgetting his name, Justice Smith's character. But then he's also supposed to be in Dominion, like you said. But then he couldn't make it for scheduling reasons, so then they just used.
I think that was a COVID thing, wasn't it, or something, something along those. Well, obviously everything got affected on Dominion by COVID.
I'd like if they brought back Malcolm, I'd like them also to bring back Kelly. I feel he works quite well when he's got somebody he can work against that's a family member with Malcolm.
Or Sarah Harding. I mean, she feels like right at home to go to this island, and I mean, she's kind of an adrenaline junkie too. Maybe love triangle with ScarJo's character, Sarah Harding, and Henry Loomis.
I have to say that's a good shout though, because no one would really expect Julianne Moore's character to come back because she's not regarded with the same breath as the main three characters. But why not? I think that's a really good idea.
I mean, she's a fantastic actor.
I think she's expressed she's wanted to come back too. So it's like it's right there.
I think Scarlett. I think just get out there and start working on these people and get and get them involved.
She's a Lost World fan. Prove it.
Yes. Well, I was wondering if there was anything else that you wanted to touch upon.
Are we going to rank where we put?
Yes,
Rebirth?
Let's do that.
Oh no,
let's do that. So let's do our rankings now. So James, do you want to go first?
God, it is difficult because I'm going to put it third behind Jurassic Park. Obviously, I think that's going to be our number one, presumably for all of us. And then I will go with Jurassic World as number 2. So I'll put Rebirth as number 3.
Nice.
And then from there.
Oh God! Probably then it would be The Lost World. Then it would be Jurassic Park 3. Then Fallen Kingdom. Then Dominion. I'm not forgetting anything, am I? That's the 7, right?
Yeah.
All right, you've got to do. You both got to do your 7 now because I've done it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's actually my list because it's Jurassic Park and then also Jurassic World for me, which I know shocked some people on when I revealed that, but it's true. I really do love it. And then Lost World. And then Rebirth, and then JP3.
Mine was slightly different because I had Rebirth, then Lost World.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I still have Lost World above Rebirth for me at least. Yes, that's the one where it's different. But then, Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, those are the two that always flip flop for me. And like, which one do I like more at the end? Because I do like all of them for different reasons, but it's like Fallen Kingdom is like. It's kind of like a Roger Corman movie, like you alluded to, like a Roger Corman with the budget and a little bit less violence, because it's just such a goofy, insane
it's just missing
story.
Vincent Price coming in at some
point.
It's
funny because I never really, vibed with Fallen Kingdom when I first saw it, but as you say, when you go back and analyze it more, there are some incredible sequences in it, such as the volcano eruption. And Ted Levine's death in the cage, one of the best deaths in the entire franchise. Yeah. So
and
it's
the best
not like
opening.
Fallen Kingdom doesn't have anything about it. It's got a ton of great stuff in it. It's up against some really good movies. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah,
and it's in a weird blender of stuff. And then I love the Brachiosaurus death was like one of the few times where I actually did tear up watching. Especially the first time I saw it, because since I went to the press screening for that one, I was not spoiled at all about that coming or anything. So it was just completely unknown. Thank goodness, because I was really, really happy about that. So I guess it would be Fallen Kingdom and then Dominion. But again, I think of Dominion and the return of the original trio. So I'm like, oh, but I love that too, even though they didn't do it that well, but they're still there. So it's still nostalgic and all that crap. So, but anyway, that's my rate.
Nice. Yes, mine's obviously Jurassic Park. Then I'm going to throw a curveball. My next is Jurassic Park 3.
Whoa!
So that's my number 2. I'm there with
Joe Johnston. Will be happy to hear that.
He will be, and Daniel Stephen as well. It's the film that I really just it hit in the same way when I watched it the first time as I did when I watched Jurassic Park. that feeling, the fact that the jungle feels more attuned to the original Jurassic Park. I like the humor. I like even though that script is all over the place, there's some really great set pieces, and I can hear Alexander Payne's and Jim Taylor's voice all over that script. And it's nice to have normal people on the island, not just mercenaries and all that sort of thing. I think that's why the family worked for me so well in this film, because they felt like a really good unit together, and actually they got stronger as the film went on. I really did like the first time I wasn't really annoyed by a child in a Jurassic Park film. Like, they were all like, even Xavier, you know, I thought he's so annoying, but he just made the dad look even more normal, and kind of in that he was just trying to keep face and keep everybody alive. And when he kicks people off the boat and he says, "Come on, we've got to jump because these idiots are going to this dino island. We're not going, you know, we're not staying with them." And he makes that decision to take his family off and to go and save his other daughter. So yeah, that's why Jurassic Park 3 is my number 2. Then it's probably Rebirth. Rebirth is probably my number 3 after that, and then The Lost World, then Jurassic World. Actually, it's probably Fallen Kingdom, then Jurassic World, then Dominion. I was so muted with Jurassic World when I first saw it. I think I've still not got over myself waiting 14 years for Jurassic Park 4. I feel I've got there now with Rebirth. Rebirth does feel like that film that I was almost expecting would happen after Jurassic Park 3, the tone and feel of it all. But yeah, Jurassic World there's some, I think it really picks up when the raptors get out and it's at night and the raptors are scary. And I like the reveal that the Indominus has raptor DNA of it, and then they all turn round. I love that sequence, and I love the fight at the end, the mosasaur. That's all great. But it just didn't, it's like straight out of vintage Hollywood, feels like. It's just a weird moment when he grabs Claire Dearing and gives her a kiss. Like pulls her in firmly, and you just think, I can just hear Max Steiner like swelling up behind them or something. There's something, you know, something going on, and I felt that just took me out of that moment in the film. But
I think you have to have a appreciation of like romancing the stone style of humor, which I do. I mean, I understand it's not for everyone, and especially to put that in a Jurassic movie maybe was too far for people. So I get that, but I just thought it was
I
like,
do get the romancing of the stone, reference, definitely, and you know, in Indiana Jones as well, isn't it? It's very coded through that film. All three of them, really.
Yeah,
Fallen Kingdom was the only one I saw once in the cinema and didn't really love the first time. Dominion, I wanted to love it. I was looking at the screen and saying, "I want to love you. I want to love you more than I do," because I'd waited so long to see Alan Grant back. And Sam Neill, I have such a connection to that character, and to see, I don't know, it just didn't, like the bit where they're talking about cinnamon and putting cinnamon on his latte and his flat white. I was just like, can you be talking about dinosaurs, please? I'd much rather than you talked about that.
I think that's the thing with like any first viewing is usually pretty bad for me, because it's like you always, if you're a fan of something and you're going into it, you're going to have expectations no matter what. Even if you try not to, they're still in the back of your mind subconsciously. So I feel like every time I see a new Jurassic movie, I'm always initially a bit disappointed. You know, some people don't go back to it after that disappointment, though. They don't give it a second chance or whatever. I always do for Jurassic, but I understand why some people don't. So some people never do get over the hurdle. But, you know, all of us seem to have, you know, given them rewatches and to, you know, appreciate them for what they are instead of what we wanted
that's also
them to
the
be.
problem of having one of the great films of all time as the first film in the franchise. No film will ever match up to that first experience. And it's not just that Spielberg turned out a brilliant... Okay, my slightly embarrassing story about Jurassic Park, if you like, was that when I saw it in 93, just as a... You know, I was at university at that point. I just went to see it like everyone else. And I came out of that going, well, it wasn't as good as Jaws, which it isn't, because Jaws is an incredible masterpiece. Jurassic is, you know, just behind it. But I wanted another Jaws at that point. because I was obsessed by Jaws as a young man. So at the time, I kind of like didn't appreciate its brilliance. Then I went back to it a lot later, and then I kind of thought, oh yeah, actually, it is pretty good, isn't it? But at the time, and now, of course, I still don't think you're never going to get that experience of to match up to that first film. I think for most people, because it's also that thing of seeing, well, obviously what were part animatronic, part CG dinosaurs at that point. That was just brand new for everyone to see that kind of, obviously there'd been dinosaur movies before, but just kind of cheesy ones, really, not in the same way. So it was so visceral. I think that was that moment of, oh my God, special effects are changing. This is the new world. And it's become like that ever since. So you'll never match that experience. So hence, I fully understand you, Derrick, not having anxiety ahead of everyone. It's always going to be a little tough. It's never going to match up to the original. I mean, Star Wars is kind of the same. I mean, if you look at Star Wars and maybe take Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back as the kind of, they're not the same film, obviously, but they're the first two. They're never going to touch those movies in whatever,
No.
They're just not. I thought Force Awakens did do that to me. It kind of churned me up. I saw that 3 times in the cinema in quick succession, but then they blew it by doing the next two.
Well, I love The Last Jedi. That's probably one of my favorite Star Wars films. Probably after the New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. It's just because, again, I think I get attached to certain directors and get a kind of idea of their vision, and I really like the ripping up of nostalgia of the Last Jedi. Fans really, a lot of fans really didn't, but I quite like going into a film and somebody going, "Oh, you thought we were going to do this? Oh, hang on a minute, I'm just going to toss away your dreams," like Luke does his lightsaber. And I the fact that he does the calling back to the Seven Samurai, the idea of the Yojimbo, that sort of thing. That's the kind of character that Luke kind of inhabits in that film. But so I get the idea that people with this film Rebirth, some fans have really disliked it. I've heard from a few. I heard on Outpost podcast that certain people were very down on it.
Well, yeah, you only had to look at the reviews were crazy. They were all over. Like Rolling Stone absolutely hated it. They called it like a really generic movie. Blah blah blah. The Telegraph in the UK, he gave it 5. And I was sort of somewhere in between in terms of rankings, but I think I gave it 4. But I saw, I've seen, all 5 as in 5 different stars kind of ratings. It's gone all over the place, and I think that's kind of cool because it's not for everyone, but for those it works for, it really works. I mean, I kind of would assume most Jurassic fans, like hardcore Jurassic fans, would dig it because it's an exciting, it brings it, but maybe not. Maybe you tell me, Derrick, you probably are more tuned into that than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it very much in the middle, like you're saying with the critics. Like even if you look at like on the RT audience score right now, it's only like in the 70s, which is a little bit lower than Dominion's actually, which is kind of shocking. I think again, it comes to expectations, and not only that, we're doing expectations for a series that is now 7 movies in. You have different age groups of people that grew up with different movies in the series first. Like some people grew up with Jurassic World as their first entry point into the series, and they have different expectations than people who are Jurassic Park fans, I think.
Yeah.
And I think
those films were quite lore heavy and having a story that they could continue, with Henry Wu and all of that stuff. It was Colin very much was about world building out, making it bigger and bigger and bigger and, connecting threads and all that sort of thing, which Rebirth does everything possible to not do that. It doesn't want to touch anything that was, it doesn't want to, and you can kind of get where Kep was coming from, because if you look at, you've got 6 films, you're like, well, I'm definitely going to piss somebody off. So I'm just going to go back to that first film and the books and go, right, that's what I'm playing with here. The rest of it, I'm not.
Do you think that's why we get very early on the objects in the mirror sequence in Krebs' car, and then you see the banner falling down? It's a bit like, all right, here are a couple of Easter eggs for you. That's it. We're not going to do any more Easter eggs after this.
Yeah, I think so. And I've heard that Spielberg wanted them to remove, there was more in the film, but during editing he asked it's a note that I've heard him give to other people he's executing, producing a film of, a sequel of his. He'll ask, just dial it back on the reverence for me, please, and it makes sense. You can see why he would want to do it, because he knows what audiences are like.
There's a lot of background history on this movie. It would be really nice if someone here who has written other Jurassic Park history books before, if they gave him the task to do a new book about the history of Rebirth. Maybe, I'm just throwing that out there for whoever's listening.
No, I mean, I did speak to the publishers of the previous books, and I think they want to wait and see if it becomes a trilogy, because obviously that would then match the previous 2 books that I've done. I did definitely want to do a one-off book, but in some respects it means waiting for at least another 5 or 6 years, whatever it might be, however long it might take them to kick out another 2 movies. But yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to deep dive into all that stuff.
But I think there's moments because when I looked, because obviously I've been looking at your books incessantly over the past six months, and when the apatosaur is lying down and it's in the road in New York and it's got graffiti on it, I was like, I've seen that from the concept art in your book, and I was like, that's clearly somebody's been flicking through those books, or and looking at that as reference points for certain moments in this film, almost certainly.
Well, I kind of hope that Universal and Amblin provide them all with a ton of artwork themselves, storyboards that I've probably never seen, that even you, Derrick, have probably never seen. If they're not getting access to that kind of that kind of golden material, I don't know who is.
I'd like to know.
No.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of kind of back to what you were saying, Roland, about people kind of being disappointed. There's a friend that I know who's not a huge Jurassic Park fan, and he saw it and he really did not like it. And I asked him why. And he said he really hated that they undid the dinosaurs being on the mainland thing. Even though he wasn't a giant fan of Dominion, he still didn't like that they walked back on that. So I have a feeling that's a part of why people don't like this one as much as we probably expected them to. In a way, it's almost like the Last Jedi effect, where it changed things and people didn't like their expectations being subverted, kind of thing.
I mean, in a way, you don't need to have that line about they're all clustering around the equator now, because it's like they could still have this island that they go to, and the dinosaurs can still be all over the world. And like you say, that's kind of been changed now, and that's really only one line of dialogue. Effectively changed the entire. Well, it undid everything that the Trevorrow trilogy did, which seems strange.
Worked so hard to do.
Yeah, exactly.
To get it off an island.
It's so hard to get them off the island. Now we're putting them back on an island or back in that region.
I really don't like the text at the start of the film.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't like text in film anyway. Particularly
we get the same information anyway.
Exactly. It's completely redundant.
Have you seen Superman yet? The amount of text at the beginning of that film?
Oh
my God.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I won't spoil it because you guys haven't seen it, but my God,
I'm
that makes Jurassic look nothing. So
really, that's
again,
shocking.
It feels like a studio play, because the film has everything that text says, so it feels completely redundant. But I feel like people watching it were like, oh, but I had to wait 15 minutes to hear the bit about the equator line, or Loomis explain what's going on, because he does so when they're on the boat. You're just like, well, just let the audience. They're clever people. They can.
No, we're
they
not.
Have ears. They can hear what people are saying. And I was just like, okay, I've heard all this. And then I suppose for people coming to it, once you've been given that information, then the next 3 scenes are all about giving you that information again. So I can see why it does land in that sort of way for people.
That's why it feels that way to me.
Yeah, maybe it's just drawn out because you've seen it already. You've heard, you know what's going on.
They told us instead of showing it.
Exactly.
So, typical journalist question: do you think the film will do over $1 billion?
I don't know. I think it depends on. I've heard rumblings and rumors that it might get an IMAX release late in the summer, after Superman and everything has cleared out and Fantastic Four, and then Jurassic might come back for a limited run in IMAX, and that might push it over the edge. I think they're going to keep it like they did Dominion, keep it in the cinemas for as long as they can to make as much money. But it was made for a lot less, so it doesn't have to do as much.
It would
money.
Just be nice if it did to match the previous three, and it certainly deserves to. I guess we're in a slightly different landscape. I mean, I remember Dominion like keeping an eye on those figures because I guess I'd done the Jurassic World visual history book, and I was pretty invested, obviously, in Dominion being good because I'd read the script but hadn't seen it until the press screening 2 days before. And then all these horrifying reviews came out, at least in the UK. I don't know about the States, but yeah, the UK critics just ripped it apart. Yeah. And I was like, it's not that bad, And obviously, I'd obviously spent all that time writing about it, and I had an idea in my head what the film might be like, and I think it reasonably lived up to those expectations. I mean, yeah, there's definitely flaws in it. Let's face it, you could cut the sequence out where they go to, it was shot in Malta, of course. I was very disappointed with the underground dinosaur market, only because...
Oh, really?
Well, I love the idea of it. And having spoken to the guys that did the animatronics, I was like, oh my God, this sequence is going to be incredible. It's going to showcase all this amazing... you're going to see all these kind of cool dinosaurs in cages up close. And there's that big fight that Chris Pratt's character has and all that sort of stuff. And it's just over so quickly. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. It all just flashes past you really, really quickly.
Too much. Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't know, a lot of that sequence probably could have been cut and they just got straight to Biosyn. I don't know. But, nonetheless, I still kind of enjoyed the movie. So I was kind of invested in it doing well. And then every week just went up and up a little bit. And like you said, they kept it in the cinemas just to hit that $1 billion mark. And I was like, yeah, you know what? They did care about that film hitting that marker, because it was never going to go way. It was never going to touch what Fallen Kingdom or Jurassic World did, but it just got there. So it would be kind of nice if Gareth's film did the same.
Did as well.
I mean, it's not going to hit a Minecraft movie numbers, for example. I mean, bizarrely, but
I mean, they're halfway there already, which is kind of
it's not bad for 2 weeks, right?
No. Yeah, biggest opening of the year, I think, outside of, holiday.
Like worldwide, I think.
Worldwide, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is, honestly, that's what matters more than the domestic numbers. Always about the domestic American dollars around here. But, I mean, because, I know it's doing better outside the US compared to Superman. Like, I heard Superman flopped in China because I think Superman's very American coded superhero. Kind of like Captain America in a way. I mean, even his uniform is, like an American flag almost kind of colors.
Yeah. Yeah. Dinosaurs, they're truly universal.
Yeah. Made by Universal.
Yeah. I love that line. I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really great fun. James, has your interview with the cinematographer come out in the magazine? That
is a very good question. It's actually in British Cinematographer magazine. I think it probably has just come out. So yeah, if anyone wants to go out and buy a copy of British Cinematographer, my editor will be very happy. But John Matheson, I have to say, never interviewed him before. Obviously, he's well known for shooting Gladiator, Gladiator 2, and that guy is a character, I have to say. That he was
very, you'd have to be to work with Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott on a regular basis.
Oh, wow.
He was great fun. Really, just I kind of the first thing I said to him was, well, did you just want to kind of join the Jurassic franchise? Was that the kind of real ambition? He's like, no, I just like Gareth's films, and he's just very blunt in a very English way, and I enjoyed him very much. So yeah, if you can seek out a copy of that, please do.
And Derrick, your book in Vertiverse, that is out in the world.
It's out there.
Yeah. How's it? Fractured ankle or leg aside. Has it been nice getting the book out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate thing with the fractured ankle. I wasn't able to do more like in-person ways to promote it that I had planned. I was able to do a little bit right before it happened, thankfully. And I was able to get into some local stores kind of thing.
Nice.
So that was nice. Yeah, I mean, and I have like the soundtrack out there now too, even on CD now, which is crazy that I was able to make that happen. There's like a service where you can do it on demand.
You got a ton of merch going, right? I saw that online.
Yeah, I made like a little Zazzle store. I mean, honestly, I just did it because, it didn't really cost anything up front to do it. So I was like, why not have all this artwork and stuff, even by John Bell, the art director of Jurassic Park. So I'm like, well, I might as well use it and, put it out there, even if people don't, read the book kind of thing. Yeah, no, I mean, and I've gotten feedback on the book so far, even from Roland right here. I got a nice review about it.
Yeah, I loved it. I really did enjoy it, and particularly the Invertiverse stuff. No spoilers, but towards the end, I think it's a real emotional roller coaster. You get very invested in the characters, and it feels like an Amblin story. It feels of the late 80s or early 90s. That's exactly the story and the feeling of it. So yeah, congratulations on it.
Well, let's hope Amblin are listening to this and they want to read it and then option it.
Yeah, it was very Amblin coded for sure. Like that was not an accident or anything. I definitely was putting that kind of mindset while I was writing it all these years. That's the thing, and it was like 10 years in the making. So it's definitely I haven't been able to enjoy the aftermath of it as much because of the ankle stuff, but it is kind of like a breath to just kind of say, okay, it's done. The world has it now. Do with it what they will. I mean, I do hope more people kind of react to it, I guess, is all I'm really asking for at this point. Like, what do people think of it? Good or bad? Just how they feel about the experience of it. So hopefully I'll get more, reactions soon. And there's multiple ways to buy it. There's ebook, paperback, hardcovers. So, I try to make, affordable options, if you will. Almost like, a cure for a virus for everyone. I open sourced it. So there you go. I tied it back to Rebirth.
and where can people buy the book?
The easiest way just to go to DerrickDavisMedia.com, because but you can find it like on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, basically anywhere you can buy books, you can find it if you just search for it.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining me today. And yeah, I'm nearly at the end of the road for Rebirth. I'm nearly there. I've got one more episode to do, which will be my thoughts on what's coming next and a couple of other people's thoughts on what's coming next. But yeah, I'd just like to say thank you, both of you, very much for joining me today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
My huge thanks to both James and Derrick for that conversation. As I said just then, next week will be the last episode of this Road to Rebirth series, where I throw it forward and look at the possibilities for what a 8th Jurassic Park film will look like. I've asked the guests who have previously been on the podcast to record their thoughts, and so that is what next week's episode will be all about. It'll be me wrapping up these past 5 months and also looking forward to the future. Thank you very much for joining me so far. You can continue the journey on Instagram at Road to Rebirth Pod. Email me your thoughts about the podcast, about the film, anybody you'd like me to talk to. I've had some amazing emails from people, so thank you very much and keep them coming. But for now, I'll just say thank you very much for listening and goodbye.